Solar PV Cast by Shift, a podcast exploring solar energy and the role it plays in improving our lives and our planet. Here's your host, Chris Palliser.
Yes, thanks for joining this episode of the Solar PV Cast. You got your residential small-scale solar, and you've got your large-scale commercial solar. And that is the focus of this episode. To talk about that today is Director of Project Development from Shift, Tim Grandjean. Tim, thanks for joining the episode.
Thanks for having me here, Chris.
Now let's get first, for those watching, those listening, a little background on yourself. How did you find your way to Shift? What's your background? And then talk a bit about your role at Shift.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I found Shift on Google in 2016, 2017. I was studying energy systems engineering technologies at Holland College. This was on Prince Edward Island. And I had to find an internship, and I knew I wanted to. I'd done a paper on the effect of carbon tax on the economy and learned a lot about the landscape in British Columbia at the time. And given that I was moving myself into the green, sustainable tech field, BC really stood out to me. So I wanted to find a placement in BC, and that's where I found Shift and did an internship that led to a job. And then fast forward now, it's been almost 6 years, and we're still in the solar coaster.
And I love that because 5 years ago, Shift was 2-3 people. So you've been along for this ride. And with that, your role within Shift has also changed.
Yeah, it's evolved over time. We were, as a 2, 3, 4, 5-man show, you'd be involved in every step of the way with a project, whether it was, a sales call or designing the system or helping with install or procurement. Like, every step of the way I've touched it. I definitely, through that found my strengths and my weaknesses. I don't really get in the field for around the tools all that much anymore. But that's okay. We've got some great talent here at Shift to, spread things out. So, now as of about a year, I'm in this new role, Director of Project Development, as you know. And within that, I focus mostly on developing commercial and industrial solar projects.
Now, let's talk about that. I guess it's great background because, like you said, you started on commercial and you've grown. You're now into the commercial side of things. What do you enjoy most about this kind of new role and focusing more on commercial projects?
Well, we always talk about making an impact here at Shift. Obviously, bigger project is larger impact. So you're, one project with, say, 10 kilowatts on average for residential, you might be, 50, 100, 150, even more with commercial. So you're able to do a lot more with a single project. We also really, as you're on the front end of it every day with educating folks on the benefits and what's involved and what it looks like in the local landscape to go solar and adopt it. With these types of projects, they have more eyes on them, whether it's through, the number of stakeholders there are in the project or just, people in the community getting a look at them. So, it helps amplify the word spreading and overall awareness of the sustainable tech that we're deploying.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The bigger the project, the more people see it, the more people think, solar, I better look into that. And then boom, there's Shift standing right there to answer any and all questions. What are some of the challenges about transitioning solar from small scale, your residential home, to large scale, whether that be the technical aspects of the panel or the larger scale of the roof or the more people involved, like you said?
I don't know how to say this, but I haven't found it to be, all that difficult. I've simply tried to look at it in such a way where, it's just more of the same. But we are talking a transition and a huge step in terms of electrical infrastructure, and we're no longer dealing with a 100 amp or a 200 amp single phase electrical service. You're talking 3-phase equipment, and it's the electrical gear is a lot more involved and complex. That would probably be the biggest thing for anybody that's looking to go from residential to commercial. Like, if you were, say, in my position, that would be probably the biggest learning curve is the differences on the electrical design front.
What about in terms of like from a BC Hydro standpoint, from a utility standpoint, what are some of the differences between your residential setup? Person X is paying this. Step 2, we've talked about that on the residential. What is that setup like on the commercial side?
So on the commercial side, you have 3 different rate structures. You have small, medium, and large general service rates. Whether you fit into small, medium, or large is based on how much electricity you consume. And from small to large, your kilowatt hour rate goes down. So your SGS, being the small, your SGS user pays around 12.5 cents per kilowatt hour, whereas your large general service pays around 6.5, and the MGS is right in between the two. So effectively, your payback period, can be around 10 years for a small user and right up to 20 years for a large user. Now, we do have a direct investment tax credit that's expected to come into play as part of Budget 2023. There's details, on a more concrete basis that'll be announced. I think it's April 1st. But with that, the way it's looking like right now is that it'll be a 30% investment tax credit. So that, that'll, I guess, soften or sharpen the numbers as far as payback as well.
Now, that's a good point you bring up about return on investment, because a lot of people will see a large project and say, well, that's going to take them the whole life of the panels for payback. So it's interesting that the utility companies kind of, hold off solar a little bit by saying, no, we're gonna give it to you cheaper here. Don't look at solar. So it's nice to hear about this investment tax credit, but it's also a bigger picture for commercial clients, isn't it? Rather than just focusing on the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, for some clients, we've had clients where, we present the numbers and yeah, okay, maybe it does take 20 years to pay the system off. But for them, it's a means of, differentiating themselves from a competitor. Maybe it's putting, powered by solar on their egg carton. Maybe it's, putting some sort of branding twist to it as a differentiator and seeing the value that way. There's a carbon tax here in BC, so there's carbon credits to be had as well, and yeah, I mean, it attracts attention for sure.
We should throw a shout out to Lockwood Farms. Catch their egg cartons in a grocery store near you. Eggs powered by the sun. Do you find when you're chatting with commercial clients, people interested in solar, that they're pretty keen, they're pretty excited about it?
Yeah. Like in general, most people have seen a project that we've done. And so they're reaching out saying, how did this work for them and how would it work for me? So yeah, generally the folks that we're chatting with are super interested.
What are some projects that you've done? If you could look at a Tim Grandjean, personal favorite list, what is a project or two that stands out for you?
I would shout out the 2018 project, which was our sort of entrance into commercial solar. It was a 50 kilowatt system on a school in Haida Gwaii. I was fortunate to learn under the wing of our founder, Colin Strong, who's, successfully managed millions of dollars in capital projects over the years, and has a really sharp eye for detail and coordination and whatnot. So that was a remote project. I don't know if I already mentioned Haida Gwaii, Queen Charlotte Islands. It's roughly a day to drive up there, and then you're taking a ferry. It was just really cool. Like, it's a whole different way of living there. All of the food that gets there travels by that same boat that we had to get our materials on to get materials to the school. So it was a really eye-opening project. The other one I would say would be the Lockwood Farms project, the net zero chicken barn that we did. I think that was 2020 or 20. Yeah, I think it was 2020. That was a great project. James and Cami really have a vision for what they want, and it was it's a great one to be a part of on the agricultural side.
What's something that maybe a business owner, commercial business owner is watching this or listening to this podcast? What's something that you would really like to convey to them if they're thinking about going solar? You got 1 minute. Just kidding.
I would say that it never hurts to explore it. And, we're here to help folks understand what it would look like from a holistic standpoint, and, provide unbiased, curated information as it relates to you. And, whether it's something that you move forward with now or later or not at all, maybe you tell a friend about your experience or what you learned or something like that. I think it's definitely something that you should explore.
It comes back to, like you mentioned earlier, that education piece, and that's what excites me, and I know you, about solar, is that there's such an opportunity to educate people, however that is, whether it's their project or however it is. What's the growth? What do you see? You've been in this world, you've seen shift from the first commercial project. What do you see the growth on the commercial side of solar look like in the next, say, 5 years?
I don't know about numbers, but I can say that what we have seen in the last couple of years has been significant, and it's not looking like that will be changing anytime soon.
I love it. I mean, I just see so many warehouses, so many big buildings with these empty roofs. They're just sitting there. I mean, why not put panels on them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the most rewarding aspects of this, section of the field that we're in, is being involved in new construction projects and being able to support a developer with outfitting their new build with solar, coordinating and working with the team of owner retained consultants, whether it's the architect or the electrical engineer or the structural engineer or the mechanical engineer. Again, it's like it comes back to the awareness, right? And sure, there's more layers and more complexity to it, but within those layers, you're also, informing and educating and collaborating with people from all different disciplines, and so it makes for a really rewarding outcome in the end.
Everybody wins at the end of a solar project.
Yeah.
Tim Grandjean, thank you so much for touching on the commercial side of solar in the episode today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Chris. It's been a while. I think net metering was the last one I did, which was probably in the early stages of the PV cast. So,
yeah, I think that was episode 2. So, yeah, it's great to get you back on and continue the conversation about all things solar.
100%. Yeah, I love what you've been doing. Thanks, Chris.
The Solar PV Cast by Shift with Chris Palliser. To begin your solar journey, visit shift.ca.